Today's topic, how to be successful in life where other folks fail. Very important topic, very important to everyone. We all want to be successful. But I'm afraid most of us, most of the time, find ourselves far less successful than what we wish to be. And oftentimes we made a lot of the right moves, graduated high school, went to college, and got the degree and all. But still, the end result wasn't what it was cracked up to be, wasn't what we thought it would be. So that's what we're going to deal with today, because we want to get there. And the first example I want to use, first of all, is a piece of encouragement for everyone, is don't lose hope, don't lose faith, okay? Just believe in yourself. I believe that's number one. That's probably foundational. Just believe in yourself. I always raised my kids, coming up, when, especially in school, when some kids were doing better in certain particular classes and subjects. It was like, they have a head, they have two arms, they have two legs. If they can do it, you can do it, okay? And I truly believed that. Now, just for an example, coming up myself, it was not intentional, but I always chased excitement, fun things. I always wanted to do things that were exciting and fun. And so I came up as a young teenager in the Bruce Lee era. So of course, me, like so many others, practiced the martial art. I could do that. and it's, I wasn't the greatest. I wasn't Bruce Lee. I wasn't one of the top tier students, but I was pretty good, and I enjoyed the fighting, the sparring and all. And so I got to live that. Why? Simply because I put my hand to do it, and I did it. Okay? Prior to that, I guess starting in the 6th grade, they were offering musical instruments. You walked into a room and they said, pick which instrument you want to play. And so I picked the saxophone. And what's very interesting is that I would have rather had the trumpet. But I got to class late and all the trumpets had already been taken. All that was left was the saxophone. And boy, in retrospect, I am so glad I was late to class that day, because the saxophone was the coolest instrument, But so the next, from the 6th grade to the 12th grade, I played music, learned all the notes, learned how to play the saxophone, played the alto saxophone, played the tenor saxophone, baritone saxophone, alto clarinet. And even in my old age, my daughter, I think I was about 55 or so, she was probably about 8 years old. She brought home from school a recorder, one of those wooden instruments. Woodwind, very basic. I said, let me see that, honey. And I took that little woodwind and I played it. I played a tune for her, and she was amazed. It wasn't that big a deal, but if you could play a saxophone, you could play just about any woodwind, okay? And so I learned to do something. There are many musicians out there. I'm one of them. There are many martial artists out there. I'm one of them. Went into the military. Many veterans out there. I'm one of them. Later in life, I went to college. I earned my associate degree. I earned my bachelor's degree. I earned my MBA. I'm one of those. At 63 years old, I got my scuba certification. I scuba dive. I do so many things that most people can't do, and I'm not special. The point was something that I wanted to do. I put my hand to do it, and I made it happen. Recently, as some of you know, I've written like 13 paperback books, 13 large e-books that actually are actually the duplicate of those paperbacks, and as well 39 small e-books, which are just those paperbacks and e-books broken down into smaller books. How many folks do you know have written? And prior to that, I've written about 8 or so books. So I've written actually about 21 books, originals. How many people you know have done that? I'm not all that special. Man, I wanted to write a book once I got my MBA, and I wanted to publish it. So Amazon Kindle, they have this publishing program. All you have to do is write it. And so it took me that first book, it took me a few weeks just to hand write out, all this information that I had in my head, a book that I wanted to publish. And then I was able to transform that to a Word program, onto Word processing. And then I was able to upload that to Kindle. I needed a book cover, so I went to Fiverr. Some of you know what Fiverr is. Now with I don't need Fiverr anymore, but at the time I didn't know I was just struggling my way through. So I got a good book cover from Fiverr, and that was that. So I'm a published author as well. All these things that I've done, whatever I've put my hand to do, I've been successful. Not because I'm special, but because I was determined. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you want to be successful? You have to be determined. And there are so many tools today. AI is a great tool. You can just ask AI, what do I do to be successful? You know, these are my personality. This is my personality trait. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. How do I monetize me? With AI, man, it's even goes beyond what I'm presenting on this program today. There is no reason why anyone cannot be successful. But what it takes, number one, is the determination. It takes the confidence within your own abilities. It takes the determination. And that's it. I mean, you look at some of these, we're just off the heels of the Paris Olympics. And you see all these experts in their fields, all these expert runners and gymnasts, and all the other, those are the only two I was really interested in, but all the other things that the Olympic has to offer. These people with one head, two arms, two legs, but they were determined. They put the time in. They did what was necessary, and they became good at their sport. Now there are tons and tons of other people who are excellent at their sport as well. These were just the best that we watched, okay? So you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be Simone Biles to be successful. You don't have to be Sha'Carri Richardson to be successful, okay? That's what I'm talking about. All it takes is a determination and a plan. And then just to walk it out. And don't give up. When I talk about my education, my associate degree and my MBA, and my bachelor's and my MBA, it's something I did between the ages of 50 and 60. Now, and when I talk about determination, this is what I mean now. Now I started because it was something that I wanted, simply an associate degree. 10 years later, I had earned all 3 degrees. But in those 10 years, I only missed a half a quarter. I was struggling in one particular algebra class, and I knew I wasn't going to pass, didn't want to mess up my GPA, so I dropped that class, withdrew. The next quarter, I just took it again with another instructor and passed. Now what I'm suggesting is if I had just stopped or laid off for a year, laid off for a couple of years or whatever, I would have never accomplished what I had accomplished. It took a determination that I was going to continue, that I wasn't going to quit. Okay, there are no breaks. There's no way they call it a gap year or whatever the kids want to do sometimes when they get out of college. No, because most of us, if we take that time off in between, we lose our momentum. And we're not going to continue. That's very important. You have to be determined. Don't give up. Keep going. Okay? Now what I want to share with us, sometimes we have a low self-image. We look at other people and we say, yeah, they did it, but I don't think I can. I'm telling you, you can. I've done just so many things that I put my hand to do. Even some of the crazy things, man. I had a motorcycle. Now check this out. When I was I think I was 19 years old, I was in the Air Force. And my friends, my fellow GIs, many of them had motorcycles. I wanted to buy a motorcycle. But I didn't know how to drive a stick. I didn't know how to do, switch gears and do all that stuff. I didn't know how to do it with a car. Of course, I didn't know how to do it with a motorcycle. But I found this gentleman in a neighboring city, a young kid whose dad was selling his motorcycle because he's a disobedient young man, so his dad sold his motorcycle. I think it was a 1977 550 Suzuki 6-cylinder. And a pretty cool motorcycle. And he's selling it for $1,200. I don't know what it would cost today. I was in the Air Force. I went and got a signature loan for $1,200. Drove over there, had somebody drop me off there. I bought the motorcycle. And you know how I learned to ride that motorcycle? You know how I learned 6 gears? I think it was 1 down, 5 up, or it was so many years ago, I don't remember how that goes. But I learned by driving it back to my city. and that was it. Then I took it to this park, John Bryant State Park. Man, it had some big old hills, man. That might have been a mistake. It was almost a mistake, because I'd be stalling out on these steep hills. But you know what they say is necessity is the mother of invention. It was like I learned the hard way, but by the time I got back to the base, I knew how to ride a motorcycle. That's whatever you want to do. Just put your mind to do it. Do it. Be determined, and just make it happen. That's it. All my life, for good and for evil, I've been that guy. That whatever I wanted to accomplish, I could accomplish, and I'm still that guy today. Okay, which I exemplified when I was 63. I got my scuba certification. Okay, so we're going to talk about some things today to make this thing practical. But first of all, you have to have confidence in yourself. I know that whatever I put my hand to do, whatever I want to accomplish, I will accomplish. I know this. You have to be that confident within yourself if you want to be successful. And so I remember this story, and I don't know if it was a made-up story, but it was about Michelangelo, who created David, you know, David, that statue with missing arms and everything, David, right? And so a gentleman came up to Michelangelo after he had created that masterpiece. And he said to him, "Sir, you know, it's such a beautiful work of art. You know, this is a beautiful masterpiece. How did you create such beauty out of a piece of rock?" And Michelangelo's response was, he said, "David was always in the rock. I just freed him." Okay. And I want you to grasp that for yourself, is that whatever it is you wish to be, whatever it is the best that you are, the best version of you, it's there. You just have to free you. And the rock, I guess, are the mental barriers and the bondages that we have that keep us from being the best, that have us challenging and questioning ourselves and even doubting our ability to do the things that we'd like to do. Now, I don't know how old some of you are, you know, but if you're old enough, do you remember those elephant jokes? They were the silliest jokes, you know. And but there was this one that always stuck with me, and it was sort of similar to this question that was asked of Michelangelo. It was talking about a sculpture, and there was an artist that had created this excellent, this perfect elephant out of this piece of rock. He had a sculpture. And so the gentleman asked him, like that gentleman asked Michelangelo, you know, how did you create such a masterpiece? How did you create such a perfect elephant out of this rock? And the gentleman said, it was easy. I just chipped away everything that didn't look like an elephant. And that was one of my, that's one of the funniest jokes to me, but the intent behind it is so profound. Sort of like the Michelangelo with the David. David was in there, I just freed him. But for yourself, whatever it is you wish to be, whatever it is you desire to be, just remove everything that is not like what you wish to be. Man, our lives, man, we filled our lives with things, with things, not just things, but attitudes and opinions and self-perceptions over the years of our lives that are not at all like the person we would desire to be, but they're a part of us. We have to free ourselves of those things. We have to free ourselves of everything that doesn't resemble what we wish to be. And what do you have left? The very best version of you. Man, when I was 28 years old, I had this epiphany, this revelation. It was like this reality that I wasn't living the life that I should, that I wasn't who I was intended to be. And so I woke up that morning, I went through my apartment, and I began picking out everything in my apartment that I loved. I had some stuff I had picked up in Japan. I had a chess set from Korea, which was really cool. I had jazz album collections, switchblade collections, all kinds of stuff, trinkets and pictures and things that I loved. And trophies, baseball, bowling, karate trophies, all kinds of stuff. And I gathered everything together in my apartment that I loved, and I took it all to the dumpster. I threw everything away that day. There was an echo in my house. Why? Because I had seen all these things in my life that I loved, all these things that I embraced. These are the things that I had accumulated throughout my life. These are the things that defined me, who I was. And it was at that moment, that cold January morning, I felt I wasn't that person anymore. And so I got rid of everything in my life that was so important to me and threw them all away that day. And I began replacing those things with the individual that I now saw that I was. And of course, I didn't really know who I was or who I wanted to be, and all I knew was I was someone different than the way I had defined myself, and I started from scratch. And I began what I call walking with my eyes open. Not being fooled by stuff. See, a lot of things, and I'm using all these things in my apartment that I gotten rid of that day sort of as an analogy of the mental notes, the mental presumptions and assumptions and perceptions that we have of ourselves. A lot of that stuff we've accumulated over the years throughout our lives, and these things have defined us. Very rarely do we determine the things that we wish to do. We are most of the time, if not all the time, moved by subconscious proddings of determinations that we've already made throughout our lives because of the experiences and the exposures that we've had in our lives. And so when I see something, automatically my judgment about that thing is not based on that moment, that perception, what I've deduced from that moment. It's based on the inner proddings and movings and the experiences and attitudes that I already have concerning things like that. So when I see that, the attitudes that come up within me were already there, okay? And so I'm suggesting is that we have to be able to dig deep. So we have to do a mental root canal, and we have to begin digging those things out that we don't want to be there, that we don't want to be moved by things from the past. We want to see things as they are. I saw it even from a religious or a spiritual perspective at the time, because I had been raised in church, and it wasn't long after I left home for the military I had become an atheist. Because a lot of the things that I had seen and based on the things that I had learned and observed, honestly, as a young person, just didn't make sense. And people weren't living up to the stuff that they were. We see it today in religion. We see a lot of times the most hateful, most rotten people that you can imagine. These are the people that are the religious folks. And it was like, man, this can't be true. It was like everybody's going to hell or God ain't real. And it was easier for me as a young person, especially as a GI, to accept the fact that God wasn't real. And so that was the path that I went. So when I had this epiphany that day, and I was 28 years old, 10 years later, it was like I was determined that I wanted to be good. I wanted to do good. I wanted to do the right type things. But I wasn't going to be held hostage to previous attitudes and perceptions, even religious attitudes and perceptions. I wanted to, what I call, walk with my eyes open and begin to discover what truth is and embrace that truth. And so what I'm suggesting is that as even as cognizant, and this is not a religious thing, it can be, but just in our lives, if we want to be something different, what I'm suggesting is we have to challenge, who we are. We have to let go of the things. There was an old, I think it was like a Jewish type proverb that if you want to grasp what is there for you, the first thing you have to do is let go of what you're already holding on to, okay? And so I'm simply suggesting that you should strive and desire to be the best person that you can be, because that person is in there. That you want to be who you desire, because there is no you, first of all. There's no you other than that whole conglomeration of all that stuff that you've garnered and maintained throughout your life and has defined who you are. That's not who you are. These are the things that have determined, the environments that have determined, the people that have determined, your parents, the cultures, the environments you came up with have determined who you're going to be. What I'm suggesting is you're really an empty slate, a blank slate. You're a blank canvas. Ready to put on that canvas whoever it is you desire to be. There's a concept that a lot of people use today. It's called vision boards, okay? It's the same type concept except with a flaw. Because with that vision board concept, you are placing all the things on that vision board that you desire to be. But even a lot of the things you have placed on that vision board that you've desired to be is being birthed out of that person who you really are not, okay? which is okay if they're good things. But I'm suggesting you can go even deeper and heavier than that. Just recognize the reality that you are actually a blank slate. And you can be and do whatever it is you want to be or do. Just recognize that there is no you, and that you can decide who you desire to be. Begin removing the things out of your life that don't line up with what you wish to be. Say you want to start running marathons, and you're like 25 years old. Well, and you smoke cigarettes. Well, you're going to have to stop smoking cigarettes. That's just a simple version of what I'm talking about. Begin removing the things that don't make sense. You might want to start eating healthier. Stop eating all that stuff you've been eating and replace it with the healthy foods. Okay, with AI, it's perfect. AI, what do I need to do? I want to be a runner. What kind of food should I be eating? You know, you could just, AI is a perfect tool for that. And so you rid yourself of all those things that don't line up with who you now desire to be, and replace those things with the things that you need to become what you desire to be. It's really that simple, and that applies to every single aspect of life, okay? Decide who you wish to be, because you are nobody. You're not defined by anyone else, by anything else. Why do you make the determination on what you want to be? And just do it. Next, you have to be good. You need to be good. If you want to become something, okay, that you haven't been, you need to become good. You need to treat people good. You need to treat people well. Why? Because what goes around comes around. Yeah, you do reap what you sow. Okay, chickens do come home to roost. There is a thing called karma. Okay, and this is the type thing that will upset whatever it is you're trying to build or trying to accomplish in your life. Okay, in everyone's life. I mean, it's not scientifically quantifiable or definable. This thing called karma. But from what I've experienced in life, and probably you have too, that it's kind of real. If you want to do good, and if you want good to come to you, you do good, okay? And a lot of times when you do wrong, wrong comes back to you. So if you're on this path now of trying to affect change in your life, trying to be successful in life, you're beginning to remove all the negativity and all these self-perceptions and even tools of negativity that you've been, hanging on to, and you're removing those and replacing them with positive things. The one thing you don't want to do is sabotage your efforts by reaping, by receiving back some negativity that you're dishing out on somebody else. What I would suggest, whatever it is you want for your life, be that for someone else, okay? We have a hard time receiving that sometimes, but it's very important. The religions have stumbled on this, and many of them have used it for ill purposes. But that whole concept of, that seed money, planting a seed, so you can grow back. The money you put in, you're going to get, and that has been convoluted, and that has been used to manipulate people, making some of the preachers wealthy. But the concept is true. The only thing is that concept holds true with everything in life. And then the problem that's not really being addressed, especially in the churches, is your intention, okay? So if your intention is simply, I'm going to give just so I can receive, well, that intention you're also sowing, and it might be some negativity, okay? So keep a good mindset. Begin to be good for the sake of being good, and there will be a reward for that. So it's not like, well, I'm going to help this poor person out just so I can get some help. No, this is where we need to begin to adjust. As you begin removing those things that have defined you negatively out of your life and replacing them with positive things, you're going to be changing. And what I'm suggesting to you today, as far as the intention of being good, not for the sake of receiving, but for the sake of recognizing there will be a receiving, but you should simply be good. Be good. And that is a key. That's the sabotaging effect that many people have found in their lives that aren't really recognizing it. Even those that have made money, even those that have begun walking the walk of what others would call successful, they're not enjoying it because there's negativity attached to their intention, okay? So successful simply isn't getting all these things because really, come on now, let's think about this. What do we really, really want in life, okay? Even when we say we want to be successful, or I want to have this kind of car, this kind of home, or this kind of relationship, or this kind of job, and whatever, all these things that we would really, really, really like, what is it that we're really searching for? We believe that these things or that thing or those things is what's going to bring us contentment, or it's going to bring us joy, or what's going to bring us happiness. So ultimately, it's not the thing that we're searching for. We're searching for the contentment, the feeling of joy and peace and calmness of mind and all. And we simply believe these things, being successful in life, the car, the house, the relationship, these are the vehicles that are going to take us there. And they probably are. But we have to have that good intention, because that good intention is going to allow us to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Because if truth be told, that is really the motivator, that is really the desire that we all have, is simply to be happy. And all these other things are the way we believe we're going to get there. But how many people we know or we've seen in the news, you know, the rich people or the stars and the artists and all that, who have killed themselves and by one way or another simply because they were striving for the happiness. Now, even if you're talking about the buzz, not the weed or the alcohol or all these other drugs and all, nobody takes drugs. I would say most people, almost 100%, don't take drugs to feel bad. They take drugs to feel good, okay? And they just assume that good is going to be the byproduct of the drug. See, that's all that everything that we do really boils down to is the feeling that we're going to have, the contentment, the peace of mind, the good feeling, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is that can't be manufactured, but as long as, when you're a good person, when you're doing good, when you're being fair and honest and right to people, that is the byproduct. So at the same time we're doing these other things to be successful, we want to have as a base, a foundation, the happiness. And so to me, it's not really true success then, if you're not happy. And this is something, man, when we look at our nation today, how polarized we are politically and racially, kind of tied in, you know, about the same thing nowadays, people are mad. People are angry. People are hateful. And when you look at the avenues, the venues that we have to express our anger and our negativity are these social media platforms. So we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have I don't know what that Elon Musk thing is. I don't even use that anymore. We have Facebook, of course. We have YouTube. We have all of these avenues that we can express our negativities more than we had before. There was a time we could have been upset. We could have been negative about some people or some things, and we were simply limited to ranting at home with our family or whatever. But now we have the ability to rant to millions upon millions of people. So we're exponentially exacerbating the negativity that we're bringing back into our lives because we're putting it out there like that, man. It's like a farmer. It's a farmer, and in a positive way and in a negative way. If a farmer only has like 10 seeds, he's gonna plant those 10 seeds. He's gonna have a limited crop, probably 10 plants. Okay, and in time he'll get seeds from the fruit and then plant more and plant more. But he's only gonna get 10 plants out of that. But imagine a farmer that has 100 seeds, or a farmer that has 1,000 seeds, or has bought bags and bags full of seeds and he's planting it. He's gonna get a humongous crop. Well, whatever he plants, he's gonna reap. Whatever he sows, he's going to reap. And so if we look at it as far as our actions and our intentions and our negativities in life, if I'm sitting here just planting my negativity to my 5 family members, That's not good, but it's going to reap some negativity. But if I'm planting my negativity to 10 million people off of 5 social media networks, and I reap back all that negativity, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to become very jacked up, and then I'm going to be responding and putting more negativity out there, and I'm going to be reaping more back. And this is where we are in our society today. This is why we got all these angry, mad people out there. It's not about the politics. It's not about who the president is or who the president isn't. We're just mad. We've always had Republican or Democratic presidents ever since I can remember. Nobody's been this mad. Why? Because social media platforms has allowed us to sow out our negativity all over the globe. And so we are reaping back that negativity and then sowing it back out again. And we're just so deep into this, man. We're jacked up. You have to decide. You have to decide on how happy do you wish to be. And you know, it's awful hard to be, now I'll tell you, that 10 years I was going to college, that's night school while I was working, while I was a husband, while I was a dad, while I was a minister. I mean, I had a lot of hats on. And if I was unhappy, if I was mad all the time, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish 10 years, you know, the associate, bachelor's, and MBA. I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so part of our problem, why we can't be successful, is because we're just too mad. We're too consumed in negative emotions to allow our minds to be free enough to study as we should, okay? And so that's a pretty heavy one to deal with, because in order to be successful in all these other areas and to do the things that we need to do, you need to be a happy person. Okay, but we're so deep in this negativity, especially because of the political situation, the racial situation, the gender situation, and you just keep on going, and before you get ready to stop tomorrow, there's going to be something else. Things for us to be mad at, but don't be. Look, I'm a heterosexual male. It doesn't bother me. Homosexuals, so whatever why would it bother me what somebody else wants to do? You know, as a dad of a teenager, you know, my daughter was in high school 2 years ago and back. She had a lot of friends who saw themselves, the gender roles as they, and the he is a she and the she is a he, or, you know, that's not even correct to say it that way, but you know what I'm talking about. But for me, I don't mind calling you that. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't bother me. Why would it bother me? If I respect you, and my daughter helped, because if I'm talking about one of her friends and I say she and that person is a they, my daughter was like not answering me, and it took me about 3 times before I realized, oh, okay, they, how are they doing? But I'm just saying, what does it matter? It doesn't matter to me, man. And maybe, I don't know why. But a lot of the issues that we have with other people today, if you're not affecting me in a harmful way, why would I care what you choose to be? And I don't even mean not caring in an apathetic way, but I mean in a respectful way. If it makes you feel good, why not? You know, I feel, and I think it's an attitude that we have to begin adopting if we want to be successful, because we have to undergird all of our efforts towards success with happiness and goodness. And as we're putting out negativity, if we're putting out intolerance and hate and bigotry and all this other stuff, we're not undergirding our successful endeavors with goodness, okay? It's sort of like, and I hope I'm not just rambling here, but it's sort of like business, okay? I consider myself a businessman. Although I've been a government worker now with the government for 30 years, and I'll be 66 this year. But I've also, you know, when I'm writing these books, or other things that I've put my hand to do that I would consider business, even some of them that didn't generate income that weren't meant to. Endeavors, working with those kids at juvenile detention for 17 years, that was free. Being a minister, a staff pastor in a local church, that was free. You know, so I call these are still like business endeavors. I look at my wife, man, she puts her hand to do many things, and she has a real good successful preschool going on right now. Business. I love business. I love seeing people successful in business. People that are doing businesses, especially ones that they have created themselves. I love, even in areas that I am totally not interested in. I celebrate their success. Honestly, I'm really pleased with that. What do you think I'm reaping back? Whatever I put my hand to do, it's going to be successful. Okay. I believe you reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. Look, go back to those kids at detention. You know, and I talk about that sometimes, but I don't give a detail about what I really feel about it. Now, I didn't do this on purpose, but in retrospect, I recognize what has happened. I spent 17 years, I missed 4 weeks in 17 years. Every week going in and talking to these young people, trying to encourage them, trying to give them some insight, a different view on life, love, peace of mind, just anything that I felt that they were lacking that could help them in the situation that they were in, okay? Now consider this. Halfway through that 17 years, I calculated that I had spoken to over 9,000 kids. 9,000 kids, imagine that. So when you take those 9,000 kids, there's just one of me, okay? So really in this concept of what goes around comes around, of sowing and reaping, who do you think benefited more from those 17 years? Those kids or me? I did. Because there was only one of me. And so I was sowing out like that halfway through to 9,000 young people, love, caring, concern, empathy, knowledge, insight, wisdom, all that stuff I was putting into all of spirituality, all that stuff I was sowing into their lives, 9,000 of them. What do you think I was reaping back? Man, in my life, I've been through stuff just like everybody else had, but I have survived, and I've survived well. Why? Because I'm reaping back what I've been sowing into the lives of so many. So in addition to whatever I put my hand to do, I'm always successful, but even in the midst of that, I'm always content. And it's like it's at work. I know I'm just going everywhere, but we only have a little bit of time on this program, so let me just continue. At work, I work for the government. I work for the post office. I've been there 30 years. Now, I was in the military when I was younger. After the military, I went to work for a couple of places, then ended up with NCR Corporation. I was there for 13 years. 1994, I took a buyout. I left the company. We would have been laid off anyway, so I just took a buyout, some money they were offering. I wasn't mad. I just kept going. I was looking one direction. I didn't even have a plan. I just took the money and left because I was positive within myself that something was going to come up. I didn't know what it was. And in retrospect, I get kind of nervous when I think about it because I really didn't have anything going on. But I left and I was fine. And guess what I kept doing? I still went to detention. I was going to detention every Sunday talking to those kids, even when I didn't have a job. And through that, I was part of a feeding program for kids that we were busing in from two of the project neighborhoods, Parkside and DeSoto Bass. And there was a national youth conference in Washington, D.C. I took some of the buyout money that NCR had given me, and I funded my trip to D.C. with two kids from two of the project neighborhoods. And so the point is, I was spending this little bit of money that I had from a company that I had left. I didn't have a job, but I wasn't concerned with it. I wasn't worried. 5 months later, I got a letter from the post office. I didn't even remember putting in an application. A year prior, as it turned out, I did, almost for a joke. And I've been there for 30 years. And I've been fine. Always with a positive attitude. There are many disgruntled employees. It's like the environment is toxic. Everybody's mad. You got the union fighting against the management fighting with the union. Everybody's upset. Everybody's telling on each other. It's just a mess. Everybody's mad. Guess who's not mad? Me. Because as I walk through that thing, man, I'm like, I'm making good money. I was getting my exercise. I was walking 20 miles a day for 26 years. That's pretty good health for a 66-year-old man. Shoot, I got a family, kids, good health care, good retirement, 401k. I look at, I have other investments, but I look at myself and my job. I'm like an asset. And I'm investing in me to generate revenue. And so I'm not upset. I'm pretty happy. Done good for me. So it's a matter of looking at a glass that's half full or half empty. Always look at it as half full, because it could be completely empty. But the point is, I'm keeping a good attitude, keeping a good mindset, trying to encourage people, happy with people. Now, I don't mind getting into a tussle every once in a while, but I don't stay mad. Okay, I just get into an argument, especially with the political season. I don't mind talking about politics. Shoot, man, especially if I really believe I'm right. I'm not going to argue loudly. I'm not going to get angry about it. But I'm just going to be happy. I'm going to be content. So everything that I do is undergirded with contentment, with happiness, with peace, and with joy. And as much as more as I'm putting out into other people's lives, I'm receiving it. And so then permeated all throughout my efforts towards successful things is this infusion of peace of mind. Now lastly, the last two things, and they're kind of infused with each other, they're kind of complementary to each other, is to always be in the process of fine-tuning yourself. Okay? And the last thing is to exercise your brain and exercise your body. Okay, so that's kind of the same thing. Always fine-tune yourself. That is to say, always challenge yourself. Always challenge what you believe, what you think. That's called growth. Man, when I realized, I didn't start getting my education, my college education, until I was 50. And so I had a high school diploma. And I always felt, like many people feel, well, college degree, that's just a piece of paper, an expensive piece of paper, and it really doesn't mean anything. This is the thing, people that don't have degrees is what we say. So that's but what I learned when I went to school to get that associate degree, simply because I just wanted to have one. And that was it. I was fine financially, my job. I wasn't trying to improve myself in the workplace. I just wanted to have a degree. What I learned is after I got that associate degree, I desired to get that bachelor's degree. And after the bachelor's degree, I decided to get the MBA. Now I didn't have those desires prior to getting the previous degree. Once I got that degree, then my attitude began to evolve. And what I'm suggesting then is what education does. It evolves you. It evolves your worldview. You begin to see things different. You begin to see life different. You begin to see people different. You begin to recognize things in the economy. You begin to recognize things like the whole welfare system that we wish that it's infusing money into our economy, and it's necessary, not necessarily for the poor people's well-being, but because we need that money infused into our economy. Okay, and the stimulus checks, the same thing. Those aren't to help people be well. Those things are simply because it's a fact that the people are going to, most of them, spend that money right back into the economy, stimulating the economy. Things like that. You begin to learn about the business environment. For me, like in the African nations, and you begin to learn, like for me, about domestic terrorism, about international terrorism, and all that good stuff. And that's just, those were electives. Come on now. Your worldview begins to expand, begin to evolve, and as your worldview begins to change, you begin to change. I would have never thought I'd written a book. I'd write a book, but I changed. I never thought I'd write over 20 books, but I changed. And so what I'm suggesting is that we have to. And so what is change? Change is that you are now seeing things differently than what you saw before. So some of the ideas you may have as you become educated are totally opposed to what you once believed. It's the antithesis, okay? You know what antithesis is? Anti against, thesis is what you know and what you believe. Antithesis is a challenge to what you believe. This is how we live, this is how we grow. Even when you are born into this world as a baby, you come into the baby, and you're floating around before you're born in this stuff and you can't see, but it's comfortable, and you're satisfied when you need satisfying. And then all of a sudden you're burst into this room with all this light and people looking at you. You had a challenge, an antithesis to your thesis, and what happened? Your worldview expanded. And this is how it is through life, throughout life. But it's like we get to a particular place in life, or sometimes we just want to believe that what we know is the way that it is. If you're at a second-year-old kid come home from school thinking they know more than you because this is what their teacher told them, yeah, because they know what they know. But then they find out later that that's not the totality of truth. And as they grow and grow up and get further education, they begin to realize that as the worldview expands, that what they believed, when they were younger isn't the way it is. This is the way it should be. Man, when I send my children off to college, I expect that when I see them that we begin having a conversation. You better tell me something I don't know. That's what all that money's for, right? I'm serious. Always fine-tune yourself by challenging yourself. Learn more, understand more, continue the process, walk with your eyes open. Totally improve it. And so that would be the brain exercise, right? But as well your body exercise. Continue exercising your body and your brain. Don't stop, man. We live in a country of unhealthy people, man. I've really been health conscious and food conscious for, say, the past 20 years or so. But even as the years go by, my worldview as far as health food and exercises, they're expanding. And I'm beginning to see, now I eat healthy 99% of the time. And when I walk through the grocery store, man, I'm looking at all these aisles and all these shelves of all these foods that are killing us, that are terrible for us. And yesterday where was I? I was somewhere at this business, and this guy was getting out of his car, and he had just come from a fast food restaurant, and he had the bag in his hand, and he's younger than me. He looked like he was probably in his 50s or so, and he was not in very good health, very good shape. Now, he was in acceptable shape for what we believe is normal in this country today, but he was not in good health. I'm just saying we need to expand, we need to exercise, and we need to fine-tune. All these things will lead us to our success. Remember Michelangelo? He said, David was in there. I just had to free him. Remember the elephant joke? How do you create such a masterpiece of an elephant out of a piece of rock? Just chip away everything that doesn't look like the elephant. Chip away everything that doesn't look like the masterpiece you wish yourself to be. And that's going to take some choices. So as we open up today, the title of this program is How to Become Successful in Life Where Other Folks Fail. Why do so many folks fail? Because it seems easier to do nothing than to do what it takes to be successful in life. So when you become successful, you will be one of the few. How you became successful in life while so many others fail. It's a positive message because anybody can grasp a hold of this. I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can do it.